Today's one of those days. We're gonna be working late.
Welcome to Service Call, a mechanic's guide to service, troubleshooting, and repair.
So we've tried to crank it over. We know there's spark. We know there's fuel getting to the carburetor. So the only thing that I suspect right now is the carburetor itself. So we're gonna take it apart, clean it up inside, and reinstall it. It might just need a nice cleanup, you know. Sometimes that's all it needs. Remember, we're dealing with gasoline here, so you got to make sure that there's nobody smoking close by, no sparks, no flames, and make sure you're always in a well-ventilated area. And trust me, this barn is pretty well ventilated. So the fuel shutoff is right there. I drained that little bowl, and now I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to drain the lines and disconnect the linkages and remove the carburetor. We're going to disconnect this. We have to remove this. That's your air intake. On the back side, there's going to be a linkage, maybe 2 linkages. Looks like pretty straightforward. Hoping that I have all my tools. It's a Massey Ferguson. I assume everything is Imperial. Today's one of those days. We're going to be working late. It wasn't just straightforward crank it over, put some fuel in it, start it up. No, we had no spark. We had spark issues. Now we're having fuel issues, right? But it's part of what we do. That's how we play this game. I'm hoping that we only have to make maybe one gasket, the one that mounts to the manifold, intake manifold. If it doesn't have any weird cutouts and things like that, passages, it should be straightforward. We can probably make our own. If not, we're gonna have to get the part numbers and get the kit for it, the rebuild kit. Voila. Oh yeah, it doesn't look very nice in there. Not at all. Yeah, so even the air ducting is all badly, very dirty. So we're gonna put this on the bench and take it apart. The magic of show business. All right, we're just gonna snap our fingers and we're gonna end up back in the workbench. So, okay, so now that we got our table set up, we have it on the table. You can have a better look at it now. So this is the plug that when it was in place, I removed this plug and nothing came out. So let's try it again. And yeah, at least we get a little bit of fuel coming out now, see that? But before, when we removed it, nothing came out because it was all caked at the bottom there. So, well, we can't even see a screw on here. So I'm just gonna take my my wire brush and I'm gonna just clean it off a little bit. Whoa, that stuff stuck on there good. And this is, you know, this is what we're talking about. This is actually fuel. You can see it turns hard. Obviously, it's caked with mud as well, but it becomes a kind of like a varnish, right? A tarry thing, and it sticks to everything. But that's what's inside, and once we get it apart, you're gonna see. So let's just try to get as much dirt as we can. So if you guys are gonna store your equipment, you know, whether it's a lawnmower, chainsaws, I think you can get some additives or things that are going to help so that you don't have these issues when you go to start it. I remember when going back to my brother's shop when I was young there, we used to have a solution that we would rebuild these carburetors, and we would just let them soak in there. You know, if they were soft material, you can't leave them in there. It's like an acid. But they come out like new after. Okay, so depending on the material, you could leave it overnight, okay? Or you could just leave it in there for a few hours or minutes. This is the needle that we pulled out before, okay, and you can see, you know, there's corrosion on there, there's rust, there was scale on there before too, you know, so it showed us that there was water inside. And you know, if you've done a few carburetors in your life, you know, once you do a couple, most of them are, you know, they all work in the same way. They're basically mixing your fuel with the air that's flowing in, Okay, so as your pistons are displacing volume in your cylinders, they draw the air in, and the carburetor mixes that air, okay, with fuel. It's supposed to be atomized fuel, okay, and that's what helps it to light. And if you remember that spark plug that we had, remember that gap that we saw there, that little spark jumping across the gap? Okay, that's what ignites that mixture of air and fuel, and that's how we get combustion, right? The truth is, I've never seen a carburetor in this condition before. This is the first one. Okay. Okay, so there's your floats. See, it doesn't look too bad, but the problem is this right here. Okay, you see these little holes right here? This one, there's one there, okay? These are the ones that get plugged up. In here as well, you know, there's a hole in there and it joins up with this fuel bowl. And those are the parts that get plugged up, okay? So yeah, we're gonna have to order the gasket set because this gasket is all ripped, okay? And you can see it's already falling apart. You saw the one that goes on the top. I don't think it was even sealing. Look at the way, the condition it's in. You know, so it wasn't sealing either. And here's your float. Okay, so it sits like that. When you open the fuel valve, fuel fills that bowl there, and these little floats, and they're actually called floats, they move up, okay, and I don't know if you can see that little needle and seat, okay, that's what shuts the fuel off into the bowl, okay, and if it doesn't, if that seat is destroyed or not seating properly, it just floods in here and it floods the whole carburetor throat, and basically you have a very rich mixture, okay, so usually that needle and seat come in a kit as well, and you always replace them when you rebuild the carburetors. You might get the floats, okay, but needle and seat have to be changed. The gaskets, of course, and we're going to remove all of these pieces that shouldn't be on there. Okay, and there's your needle and seat. Okay, there's your needle. Seat's inside. I'll pull it out in 2 seconds. The needle and seat come as a set, yeah, and there's the gasket. Okay, there's the gasket. So this here is the seat, okay, and the needle goes inside. You can see how it sits in there. So when the seat and needle and seat either or are damaged, you know, it doesn't stop the flow of fuel into that bowl, and then your engine's always flooding, okay? Gives you lots of problems. So that's your Venturi right there, okay, and that's Bernoulli's principle right there. The other thing that you got to watch for here is you see this shaft that goes through there. You have to check for the play up and down, in and out, side to side. It might have a little bit. Okay, what happens is you'll get air bypassing, instead of going through the proper galleries, it's going to draw air in right from the shaft itself. I don't know if you can see. You can see it from here because there's a lot of light over there. There's actually 2 holes that are drilled in to the throat of the carburetor. Okay, I don't know if you can see that right inside. Okay, there's one there, and there's one there. Are you able to see it? Okay. Okay, and you see how tiny they are? Those are galleries, okay? And they plug up. Before we counted 1.5 turns, okay? So usually when, if you don't know where to start, you know, or with these adjusters, you know, usually you can go in all the way, okay? And you can, a rule of thumb, if you're not sure, go in all the way and maybe just give it 2 turns, okay? 1, 2, okay, or maybe even 3, 2, 2.5, and that's usually it allows the vehicle to start, okay? And then you can fine tune it, all right, to get the proper mixture, fuel mixture, idle speeds, and idle mixtures. So now I can just remove it because I know what my reference was, okay? And you'll see this one here also has a tapered tip. It's a needle as well, okay? Very similar to this other one here. And what they're controlling is, they're either controlling fuel or air. Okay, so what we need to find now is a number. We need to find a number so that we can order the kit for it. You know, we might get away with just giving them the model. Oh, I think I found something. I found a tag. Just so you know, we love tags. When you find tags on a machine or on especially carburetors, you know, that's telling you that that's a part number right there. So you can get a kit using these numbers. Okay, so you can probably see that. I think it says what, ISX 882, and there's an M on it. Okay, so that's probably the number they need. I'm gonna clean it up and see if there's any other numbers. But that little tag there is probably the kit number of that carburetor. Yeah, there's some numbers down here. These are stamped. I don't think we need them, but you know what? We take them anyways. It's a 10A 355. Okay, so we'll take that number as well. But I think with that tag number and our number stamped on here, we should be okay. Let's get those parts on order. If we're lucky, we'll get them by tomorrow and we'll start assembly. And we ordered the parts, and guess what? Today they arrived. So today we're going to finish cleaning all the parts, get them spotless, and then we're going to rebuild it using all these parts. Okay, so what we have here we have the main gasket that actually bolts between the carburetor and the manifold, intake manifold. Then this next gasket is the one that goes between the top part of the carburetor and the bottom of the carburetor. Okay, so that's the housing carburetor. We have several seals here, gaskets and seals, all right, little rubbing blocks here. You'll also notice that there's some plugs in case we have to go a little deeper and take apart our certain parts of our carburetor. So we might have to drill them out and put these new plugs in. We have an extra spring here, and the reason they give you springs is because the springs actually lose their tension. So they're giving you new ones. There's a couple of little washers down here, okay? And of course you have two different types of idle adjustments, okay? And if you look on this little sheet here, if you look at the tips here, they're actually different tips, okay? One's 30 degree and the other one's 15 degree. So these are the idle screws. Okay, so when it's idling, we need to make sure that we choose the right one, put the right one in place. That way we get proper idling. Okay, and of course this little ruler that you see here, okay, there's a reason for it and we'll show you a little bit later, but it's to measure the float, okay, because you have to adjust the float on the fuel bowl, and it has to be properly adjusted so that your needle and seat that are right here on the right, okay, they have the right configuration. So this little ruler is going to have a very important job to do here. So our idea is to take everything apart. We're gonna soak everything in our solvents. And you guys, when you pull all these little jets apart, you have to be careful because sometimes there's springs, okay, or little balls in there. Okay, this one here doesn't have anything. There's nothing in there, okay? But that little jet has a little hole through it, okay? And it's either gonna allow air or oil through, or sorry, air or fuel through there, okay? So we're gonna throw this one back in our solvent again. Okay, so this is our top butterfly valve. It should just come off like that. Okay, and we have to remember how it goes, of course. Then your shaft comes out. Okay, and here's what I was talking about earlier. A little bit of wear on that shaft. It's not too bad. Okay, but we're going to clean it up. Okay, so this solution that we're using, there's actually a special carb cleaner solution. It's we mentioned it earlier that it's kind of like an acid bath that we do. It loosens everything, including all this gasket surface, everything comes out like new. But here we're going to use some sort of Varsol solvent. Once we're all cleaned up, we're going to lay it out, and you're going to see what it should look like. All right, there we go. So we're just gonna, we don't have the exact solution for cleaning our carburetors. Remember, we're more of a heavy-duty diesel type people, right? So this carburetor is something that just fell from the sky right into our lap, and you know, we're not going to go out and buy the carburetor cleaning solution, because we may just use it once every 100 episodes or something. So yeah, we're just going to clean it as best as we can, put it in our solution, our solvent, then we're going to clean it up. So I scraped a little bit off as much as I could, but now we're going to get a little bit of help with our friend, I guess. Okay, so let's see if our heavy-duty air compressor will work here. It's a portable. Is it portable? Yeah, it is portable. Okay, we're going to do as best a job as we can. Okay, so because we're using a lot of air, you know, this little tool here, it actually uses quite a bit of air. This light-duty air compressor is not heavy-duty enough, so we're going to have to go to something a little bit more stronger. Okay, so we're going to use this one, which is has a little bit more cubic feet per minute, and yeah, this one's going to be a little bit more heavier duty. So hopefully we can get this cleaned up. Okay, so we got all our parts cleaned up. We put them through our solvents, we cleaned them, we scrubbed them. We used a wire wheel on the outside of the housing. We noticed that there was actually some corrosion in one of the main jets, okay, towards the bottom. So that means that there was water under there somewhere. The main jet itself was actually plugged up, so I had to pick it nice and easy through there, and until my pick went through, clean that up really good. After we got all that cleaned up and put it through the solvent, here they are. Okay, so now on the table here, or right here in the middle, okay, is going to be all the parts that we're going to reuse. Okay, there could be a spring that we're going to change with a new one here. Okay, so everything here we're going to replace. Everything on the right, okay, on the right here are the new components. Okay, and these are the ones that are going to go onto the carburetor. The ones on the left is our garbage. So anything that we don't use here, we discard and we leave it on the left side. And the idea is to kind of lay things out, okay, so that it's easy to find and that it's easy for you to be able to identify what goes where, okay, and also just group them together, you know, you know, it becomes much easier when you're assembling. So yeah, so let's get at it. Let's start. We got to get this thing running. So one thing that's important, your carb kit always comes with a sheet here. Okay, now this rebuild sheet, it doesn't go step by step, but it gives you the exploded view of all the components on this carburetor. What it's telling you here is there's 3 types of carburetors, okay? The one that we have is the one in the middle, okay? It says it's a type B, and that's the one that we have, the one right in the middle, okay? The other thing about carb kits, and don't get too worried about it, is if you have parts left over. Okay, the reason is when you order a carb kit, they send enough parts inside so that that kit could cover 2 or 3 different other types of carb kits, okay, of carburetors. So, you know, just make sure that you replace the ones that, and that's why I set it up this way, right? So all the ones that I do not use, I discard, I leave it on the left side. Okay, so let's start rebuilding this thing. It's a simple one, we can start putting it together, or you can try and follow step by step through there. One thing that is different, we have to identify our idle screw, okay? Because remember the new kit, okay? The new kit brings two screws. Here's our old one on my left hand, right? And you can see that a 30-degree tip, not a 15, okay? So we're gonna put the old one there and the 15 degree. So this is the new one, and it also comes with a new spring, okay? What you wanna do is protect that tip. Don't be dropping it or damaging it, okay? So the old spring for that idle screw will come to our left side. Of course, you know, we have our old gaskets here, right? That's what's left of them. When we took it apart, it just fell apart. We also noticed that if you look at the main gasket that goes between the carburetor and the manifold, you know, it wasn't really sealing very well. So it comes with a new kit, and we're gonna reuse it. We're gonna use a new one. So, okay, so let's start assembling this thing, and you can see how it came out. Outside, we did as best as we could. Inside is where we probably spent a little bit more time, making sure that all the little lines in there and everything, okay, that they're nice and clean, and also the ports. There's little drillings inside, galleries, okay, and they've all been clean, blown out. So let's start putting it together. Okay. So they start with this one here, and they start putting the shaft in place. Shaft is this one here. So remember we talked about before the idle screw. So they want us to put the idle screw in there until it's seated, and then back it out one turn, okay? And that's so you can get it running, right? So you can get it started. So our idle adjusting needle, which is number 5, it's right up there. And that's the new one that we got, okay, with our, what did we say it was, 30 degree? And that one goes right in there. What you don't want to do is just butt it up against the end. You got to feel it slightly seated. There it is. Like that. And back it out one turn, okay? So that's half. There's your one turn. This one as well. This one here takes a little gasket. You have the spring, you have the washer, and then you have the seal at the bottom. That one goes right in here. Okay, so it says we go in all the way. And you can see there it sticks out. So it's in, and then it says to back out. One turn. Okay, so there you have it. Just like that. Put in this little jet. Okay, this jet is number 14. It's a jet needle, like that. And we should have put this one in first. Okay, yeah. We're gonna have to pull this needle off. It's getting in the way. We need to put our seat in here first. So it should be a gasket in there. Like that. Sorry, I haven't done one of these in years, guys. But I remember now. You actually put it in with the float. And I think somebody's been in here before because they left that little thing out. So now you get that little, see, now you get the needle. The needle, it's actually connected now to the float, okay, like that. Okay, and there you have it. So when you actually flip it over, we're not gonna drop it, but you see how that float hangs? So it's actually just like your valve on your toilet, okay? So when the when your bowl fills up, okay, your little float starts coming up, and you'll see the needle. It's actually down, so fuel is actually pouring into this bowl here, okay? So once the fuel is pouring in, it fills up, this float comes up, it pushes that needle against its seat, and the fuel stops coming into the bowl. Let's play around with the other one now. This one, okay? So this is the bowl. You see that the float goes right in there. So we're going to put our nozzle in place. There you have it. Like that. All right, let's see if I can stick my hand in here. It's very tiny. Okay, so that's on. Okay, so they both have to be a quarter inch. A quarter inch. So a quarter inch in this case is going to be, I don't know if you can see that, but it's going to be a 12. Okay, so that you read the 12 there. So it has to be flush with the bottom and the gasket surface. So you're looking at 12. It's right on 12 when I read it. This one here, the one in front, look at that. It's a little bit too low, right? You can see that? It looks like a what, 8, 9, 10. It looks like an 8 or a 9 or a 10. So I'm going to have to twist it a little bit just to get it to where it needs to be. So that back one's still at 12. This one is at 12. Yeah. So you can see the bottom of that float should be right at 12. Okay. Okay, so now that we got that one done, we can put our what did they call it? This the main number 1 needle power adjuster. We just have to give it one turn. We go all the way down and then we turn it back one turn, like that. Okay, so there it is. Just like that. No, I can't go in there like that. I think I'm gonna have to remove this again. Okay. So this goes in first like that. That was your venturi. Put your gasket in place. Oops. Okay, and there's nothing in here that can fall off. Okay, I remember rebuilding. I think I rebuilt a couple of Holley carburetors, and when you flip them upside down, little balls fall out. Okay, so you gotta watch it. All right, this one here, nothing's gonna fall out. Just make sure you point that needle in there. Okay, and I think it's gonna be much better. I don't know why it doesn't give you this, but I'm gonna pull this out again. What is that? Third time? Second time? I'll put it in later. Okay, so let's put our bowl together. Just like that, and now we can flip it over like that. Now when you rebuild the carburetors, don't ever use silicone, okay? Don't use that stuff. Once you squish it out, it could plug up your ports, okay? So that gasket has to go on dry. A gasket should be able to go on there dry and it should seal, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be a gasket. Some guys like to throw that, I can't remember, high-tack, I think it was called high-tack gasket or something. It's a spray that you throw on there. That spray you can use for some things. It helps to hold the gasket as well on some installations. I think that's probably more of it. If the surfaces are nice and straight, it should be fine. You don't need anything, but some guys like to use them, and it helps to hold gaskets in place as well. This is your intake, okay, your inlet coming from your tank, okay, and this one just sits in there. That little screen we cleaned off as well, blew it out. Oh, one last thing, finishing touch right there. So there's our carburetor, rebuilt carburetor, and float has been adjusted. All the ports are now open, okay, and that's what it looks like. So she's ready to be installed. Okay, so we'll come back and get this baby on. So my name is William. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay safe out there. Good old scrapers, and do it the old-fashioned way, right? We'll try and